Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Kickin Show, the official podcast here of Kickin' the Tires. If you're watching us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. If you're watching us on Twitter, Twitch, or wherever else we're streaming this, thanks to Justin Schuoler, hit the like and follow buttons, and we'll definitely like to add you to our fan base. We got Zach on with us tonight. We got Justin, of course, doing the production, and then me. Just got back from Daytona this week. I am exhausted. So, it's late. I know it's late for you, Zach. Out on the West Coast for you, Justin. I guess it's like 4 in the afternoon or something. I don't know. But, we had some great racing this past weekend. Really 2 weekends in a row at Daytona. First time winner of the Daytona 500, first time Cup Series winner. Michael McDowell, that was really cool to see him win. And then fast forward another week, and you got Ben Rhodes winning a truck race on Friday night, going back to back because he won the first truck race of the year the week before. Then you got Christopher Bell winning the Cup Series race, and Ty Gibbs winning the Xfinity Series race. So it was a weekend of a lot of action. And Zach, you actually talked to somebody. You've got an interview with Camden Murphy, who was in the truck race. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, and I'll sit back.
Yeah, so Camden Murphy is a small driver. Maybe not a whole lot of people, a lot of NASCAR fans would know about this name, but he's about one of the hardest workers you'll find, not only in the Truck Series garage, but just anywhere in NASCAR. He works on these trucks, and he works really, really hard to get every opportunity that he does get. And he just raced this past weekend, this Friday, in the Daytona truck race on the road course. And that was for Joe Nemechek. And it's not the first time he's raced in that number 8 Nemco Chevrolet. And he's able to come home 13th. And it seems kind of straightforward, but if you watch that race, you know that nothing was straightforward about it. It was a wild night, and it was pretty wild for him. He had issues on pit road. He discussed that. He discussed overall just the opportunity and how he sets his mind when he goes into what could be just a one-shot race. He only ran one race all of last year, and here he comes into the Daytona Road Course where it's raining, no practice, no qualifying, boom, here's your opportunity. And he discussed about what that's like and maybe what his future holds. So here's our conversation with Camden Murphy.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, and we're joined here with Zach Catanzareti, one of our senior riders with Kickin' the Tires, and Camden Murphy, part-time NASCAR Camping World Truck Series driver for the number 8 Chevy Silverado with Nemco Motorsports. Camden, Zach, thanks for joining us. First off, Camden, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I'm out here in Tucson, Arizona, about to run a Legends car out here. So I'm doing awesome. Obviously coming off of a pretty solid weekend there at Daytona Road Course. About to have some fun in Tucson. It's always a good day when you're behind the wheel of a race car.
Yeah, and it looks like it's a pretty fun week for you guys. I mean, legend car racing, that's where a lot of talents, get to scrub their feet, their first time in the car. You have tons of experience in other cars, but kind of fill us into what you're doing out there in Tucson. I heard it's the Chili Willy. It's a small short track race, but really, what are you doing out there?
Yeah, so actually, it's kind of funny. A little bit of a long story short, I used to race for the same team, Hansen Motorsports, for Jimmy Hansen, about 10 years ago. And when I was about 12, 13 years old, I ran a Legends car for him, and we stayed in touch throughout the years. And obviously, I moved on to other things, but he just kind of reached out at the end of the year last year and said, hey, man, would you like to drive my car at Irwindale Speedway in December last year? And I said, absolutely, man. I mean, it's been 10 years since I've driven one of these cars, but hey, I'll drive anything, I'll drive the wheels off anything. So went out there, had a whole lot of fun, had a great time. And after that race, it went well. We had a little on-track incident that kind of caused, of course, the finish we didn't want, but it is what it is. But we ended up kind of saying, man, well, there's a big race in Tucson, Arizona next year, the Chili Willy. They go every year. They're fast every single year. And he said, hey, man, well, how about drive my car there too and see how it goes? So we're out here having some fun. Today was a test day. We've got some things to work on, but the Hansen Motorsports, Jimmy's got this car working real good. He's actually outside as we speak doing some tweaks on it to make it ready to rock and roll. But the Grim Bean Coffee number 85 is going to be wicked fast this weekend. It's a 3-day show. We got races Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday. It's gonna be a blast.
Now, is that the same car you found in a barn, apparently? Or is that another car?
Oh my gosh.
It is not actually. So it is his car. This car we're racing is his car, but that one is actually mine. The car that I raced 10 years ago. One of my sponsors and longtime partners, Hole in One Motorsports and True Power Racing Oil, he hung on to that car and he just wanted to keep it. He just wanted to hang on to it. Yeah, sure. Sounds good, man. So he actually threw it in his barn, and it's been sitting there ever since. I mean, literally came off the racetrack and went straight to his barn. It still has tire pressures written on the fenders. It's pretty cool. I'm not going to lie. So I'm pretty excited about taking that thing out. We're going to track it a little bit. Probably going to take it to some road racing days and just have some fun. You know, obviously any time behind the wheel is good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, and let us know if that barn car ever comes out, because that'll be quite the story for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working on some YouTube videos on it too right now, so we'll do.
Oh, nice. Well, like you said, even a bad day at the track beats a great day at work. So let's talk about your Daytona Road Course race. You've been there before, but obviously now in the Truck Series, and obviously a wild weekend really between all three series, and the trucks kind of setting the tone early on. But you came out on the positive side compared to a lot of your competition, and I believe it was your career best finish with the 13th place finish in that Nemco Motorsports Chevrolet, correct?
Yeah, it was, and it was a blast. You know, Mr. Nemechek has given me an amazing opportunity to just work with him and work alongside of them. You know, our relationship started in 2019 when I was driving their support truck, the number 87. Now, yeah, we weren't running a ton of laps, obviously, and you know, that kind of stinks in some aspect. But at the same time, you're gaining experience. And again, as I've said already, any time behind the wheel is good for you. So being associated with someone like Mr. Nemechek and the Nemco Motorsports team and the background that they have and the history that they have in the sport, just the Nemechek name itself, it is amazing to be tied with. And you know, we've obviously tried for a while to put a full race together. And of course, it always comes down to finding the partners and sponsors to make it all happen. And, you know, this weekend was kind of a blessing in disguise. We had our eyes set on the Daytona Road Course just because I have some road racing experience. I have a lot of laps at that road course. And so with how the point system is this year too, the first two races are really, really important. And, you know, of course, Mr. Nemechek wanted to run Daytona, the super speedway. And so, you know, we tried putting together a bit of a game plan to put the road course together. And honestly, we didn't have any partners on board until Monday afternoon. BreakfastGame.com came on board. THQ made that weekend possible. Cannot thank them enough. Of course, Rocky Lace Hardware and the Cookie Jar, they came on board last minute. Super awesome. But no, the weekend was a lot of fun. You know, it's different when you go into a weekend and you don't have any practice. Mind you, I drove a NASCAR, just race car, so a truck, once last year at Bristol, and that was for Nemco again. So I was only behind the wheel of a NASCAR race car one time. And, you know, you can get a little rusty. You got to work on getting the rust knocked off. And without practice, it makes it a lot more challenging. So adding the rain element threw definitely everybody for a twist. Luckily, I have a little bit of rain experience in the road racing as well, too. So that was helpful. But starting basically last, I think it was 37th or 38th, you're kind of in trouble at that point. You know, you got to let everybody just kind of thin out and work their way away from each other to not get any issues. But honestly, it was great. The truck was wicked fast. We drove all the way up to 6th place from I think it was 37th, and I mean we were on a really great run to have a really great finish, if not compete for the win. That truck was fast. And unfortunately had some troubles on pit road. I made a mistake, and it cost us to run out of fuel and lose a lap. So, you know, I hate to have mistakes like that, and that's not acceptable. But, you know, you can look at it a few different ways. I have somewhat of a lack of experience when it comes to things like that in some ways. So, you know, it stinks that it happened, but we rallied back from, I think it was 33rd once I got my lap back, and drove all the way up to 13th. Mm-hmm. It stinks from a competitor standpoint because I knew we could have ran and finished easily in the top 10, if not top 5, or competed for the win. So, you know, the competitive side of me hates what happened, but you have to look at the big picture and say, man, well, we rallied from the back to the front twice. And Mr. Nemechek was happy. partners are happy. That's all that matters.
Yeah, so when that mistake happened, like, what's going on through your head? What's your crew telling you over the radio to make sure you stay focused and try to salvage everything that you can?
Yeah, so my crew chief, Jerry Kennan, and I, we rode down to Daytona together, and we had long talks just before the weekend even started. And when you have your team has confidence in you and in your abilities and what you can do on the racetrack, even with your lack of experience, that in itself is a confidence boost. But, of course, once you put the helmet on, everything's out the door in some way. Your competitiveness and everything just really starts to grind your gears, for lack of better terms. So when that came through, when that happened, I ran out of fuel. I'm sitting there on NASCAR turn 3 and 4 and the apron. I'm just frustrated with myself. So frustrated because, again, when we don't always have the partners to go to the racetrack, you have to make the best of every single opportunity that you get. And I made a mistake, and I was so incredibly frustrated with myself. I was so mad. But Jerry just said, "Hey, man, just be calm, be cool. We'll be fine." He's like, "You got this. We'll get the lap back, and we'll we know we have the speed. We know we have confidence in you. We'll get this job done. We'll make it happen." So, just having the support of your fellow team is huge, and that was probably the biggest piece behind it, is just knowing that they were there backing me up. Yeah, it's a mistake, but hey, everybody makes mistakes, and you got to learn some way, somehow. But the fact that they believe in you is definitely a big factor in the comeback.
Yeah, man, you definitely touched on it there. I mean, just as a driver, anytime I see drivers having to start and park, especially years ago, we saw it so much, and it rips your heart out, even as just a fan watching, because, they raced all their life to get to Cup Xfinity trucks, and now they have to pull it into the garage. And you had to do that quite a bit just a couple of years ago. And, a race like Friday, as a driver and as a team, you guys were able to improve on the truck and overcome those kind of obstacles. And you weren't able to do that when you're starting parking. So you kind of touched on that overall feeling you have to have. But when you're able to finish these races and get these opportunities, how fulfilling it is. 13th place, you always want more. You told me last week, man, I wanted more. But big picture, really hard to get these kind of opportunities.
When you look at it big picture, like you said, you really have to think about the position that you're in. I thought about, 2014, I was living out of my car, sleeping floors at SS Greenlight Racing, and driving to and from all these different racetracks all across the country, just trying to meet people, build connections, build relationships. I didn't come from a racing family background. No racing whatsoever in my family. Unfortunately, of course, we didn't have the financial means either to do bigger and better things. We stayed in the short track trucks for a long time, and we never could move to late models because we just couldn't afford to. And so when you find yourself in a position where, you're standing on pit road and, the national anthem is playing and you just take a step back and think about how fortunate I am to do what I do. And that in itself is just kind of a surreal feeling. And, I look to the right and there's Daytona, it's an amazing feeling that I'm here. I'm doing what I love to do. I'm one of very few that get to do it. But I'm also, Joe Nemechek, a NASCAR legend, is standing next to me and believing in me and giving me an opportunity to show what I can do behind the wheel. It's a big thing. And, you have to hope that, the people that matter in the sport, which I'm not saying, there's people that don't matter, of course, but it's, the team owners and team managers and stuff like that really can present opportunities for you in this industry. They notice what you do. Like Bristol, we started last, and that is a place that is impossible to go anywhere starting last, just about impossible. And, it took us forever to get a lap back and so on and so forth. But, when we were in the midst of restarts, making passes on guys like Johnny Sauter and Ross Chastain and Brett Moffitt and guys like this that race every single week, and they've been doing this for years and literally race every week. That experience is helpful for them, but it's confidence boosting. But it means a lot because knowing that, okay, well, I might only have one race this year that I get to do. I have to make the most of it. Well, if you can make the most of any situation that you're given, if it's you have, of course, pit road issues like we did, or anything that comes up, if you can make the most of it and just kind of hope that another opportunity comes of it, that's where you got to take the step back and again think about how fortunate you are just to be doing what you're doing. So I hope that kind of makes sense. But it's big picture, I'm just very lucky to do what I do. Granted, I'd love to be behind the wheel every single week. Everybody that's racing full time this year, I can promise you will have more laps this season than I have in the last 5 to 6 years of my NASCAR career. So, it's definitely a surreal feeling, know that I'm still able to do this.
So you overcame everything on the pit road issue and all of that. Then you fought back through the field to 13th. But I know that for someone like you, with being a part-time driver and stuff like that, only running one race last year and then the Daytona Road Course this year, anyone you want to shout out to for giving you the opportunity to be able to drive that truck?
Yeah, of course. One of the most obvious ones is Joe Nemechek. Yeah, he has been huge for my career here the last couple of years, just guiding me in certain directions and helping me out. But of course, Bobby Dotter has been a big mentor of mine as well. He's helped kind of guide me around in certain directions as well. But back to the Nemechek thing, Andrea Nemechek, Mr. Nemechek's wife, she of course is a big piece in the team that she doesn't really get seen a whole lot. But of course, my partners, wreckfestgame.com, THQ, they came on board so last minute. It was so amazing to be able to represent them, and got such great feedback from fans and, of course, Wreckfest fans as well. I put it out there on a lot of different groups on Facebook and other platforms, and just got so much great feedback from that, even for how last minute of a deal it was. I hope to be able to do something with them again soon, maybe a different game, different platform, or with Wreckfest again, just on a larger scale. It was awesome to have them on board. Can't thank them enough as well. Scott Olstein and the Rock Hill Ace Hardware came on board literally hours before the race, and then the cookie jar. Stacy is awesome as well, and Brett Everett over there have kind of made that all happen and made that come together. So cannot thank them enough. David Hurt and David Muscarella, of course, they came in just to help out with a few things last minute there as well. So a lot of great people that have helped me out along the way. Of course, there's so many more behind the scenes that continue to, but it's amazing to have the support from so many different people and to have partners again like Wreckfest Game and THQ, a large corporation like that, to come on board, believe in me, believe in Nemco, and to support us is amazing. So I hope to be able to do something again like that soon, and again hope to do it with Mr. Nemechek and something of the sort.
Now, what do you think about while you're driving? Because, you just touched on so many emotions, but when you put the helmet on, you got to be in your own different world. I mean, I remember hearing from Kyle Busch just last week. He did an interview, and he used to race with that mindset of, I'm racing for my life every week. And it was a daunting prospect for him to put himself in because there was so much pressure. And he kind of learned to chill out and take it easy and take each opportunity as it comes. But when you get out there, it's your race. So have you been able to find that balance, or are you still, because it's one every 6 months, it's kind of hard to do that?
Yeah. So, you kind of find, I kind of find myself still in that moment. Once the helmet's on, it's game time, it's go time, nothing else matters at this point in life. But, at the same time, someone in my position, I, like you said, might only have one race a year, and that can weigh in the back of your head a little bit. But when the time really matters, nothing else in your head is really going on. But it's tough because, for example, the beginning of that race at Daytona, the road course, I knew that for the first half of that race, we're just going to ride around. We're just going to stay out of trouble because, Mr. Nemechek is giving me this amazing opportunity. I'm trying not to cost him any money with tearing up this beautiful race car. And the Nemco Motorsports boys work really, really hard at making these trucks fast and putting these things together. I mean, it's a small operation, 2-3 guys working in there, and not even full time. So, that's in the back of my head because I'm a mechanic myself. I work on these race cars, I build them, and So I know what it takes to get to the racetrack and what it takes to get to the track next week after a driver just tore it up. So, those are some things that stick in the back of my head sometimes, knowing that, okay, well, I might not be in the seat next week. If I tear this truck up, team owners, team managers might see, oh man, this kid just keeps tearing stuff up every week, even if it's not even my fault. It happens, and so you kind of try to avoid certain situations. So I try really hard to clear my head completely. There are moments that, of course, qualifying, when I have to qualify into the show, nothing's in my head. I'm going to qualify that car, truck in the show, no matter what, whatever it takes. But once it's race time, there are a few things that linger in the back of my head, and I hope that there's one day that I'd be racing full time, that I won't have to worry about those things. But unfortunately, someone in my position kind of has to keep those things in the back of their head. And sometimes that is valuable to a team owner or team manager, but we'll see and hope and pray for that down the road.
And it must be great to have a team owner like Joe. You mentioned him. I mean, he's the Xfinity Series champion. He's got more NASCAR starts than anybody ever. He's the most experienced driver ever. And I think some team owners might not understand what a driver's going through, especially if they're new in the sport. But Joe, I mean, everything that you've gone through, he's been through already. So, like, what has he told you? What did he say after the race, first off? And how has he really coached you since you've been racing him for a little bit here?
Actually, one of the very first things he said once I got out of the truck is he said, man, you're going to be working real late in the next couple months for me at the shop fixing this truck. I was like, yeah, I get, I know. He said, no, but he said, man, you did a great job. He said, you made a comeback. He's like, obviously, we were all a little worried there when we went to the back. And, from a financial standpoint, the purse isn't as great, obviously, towards the rear of the field. So, we were worried in some sense like that, but no, he had full confidence in me, and he said, you did a great job. Obviously, come from the back to the front twice. So he was really happy, really proud, and crew chief Jerry Kennan was the same way. We had our 6-hour drive back to Charlotte after the race, and obviously talked about a lot. So it's awesome to have someone like him as a mentor, but then also someone I can call up at any moment, and he'll answer. And if I have a question about anything, he'll guide me in any direction that he can, or at least try to help. But it's awesome just to have someone like him support me and just believe in me, believe in my abilities. That's huge for someone like him to do that. So I'm hoping that he and I can keep our partnership and relationship going for a long time. So he's definitely helped my career in many ways, and being associated with him is incredibly helpful. So I cannot thank him enough for just giving me that quick little phone call to drive his support truck in 2019, and here we are.
Yeah, and one more question here. As many know, you're a very unique all-around racer. You've done the NASCAR Xfinity and Truck Series, but you've done MonsterJam, and that's what you've been doing for quite a while here, pretty much as long as I've known you. So when it comes to 2021, what's really on your racing checklist, especially on the MonsterJam side?
Yeah, so I'm again very fortunate to do what I do, but also even more fortunate that the fact that I'm the only person in the world that drives a MonsterJam truck and a NASCAR. So I get to have fun in both worlds. So the MonsterJam stuff is an absolute blast. I get to represent an awesome company as Spin Master and their Bakugan brand with the Bakugan Dragonoid MonsterJam truck. Had a blast with that the last couple of years here. And the 2021 schedule, not too sure just yet. Obviously it's still in the works, but just kind of with states opening up and allowing different capacities and stuff like that. So MonsterJam is going. Bakugan is being taken care of. Ryan Anderson is filling in for me right now for the time being. So hoping to get back behind the wheel of that beast here soon. But that is another opportunity of a lifetime that I'm incredibly fortunate to have and do. That has created so many other opportunities outside of that world for me. So it's amazing. I'm very fortunate to do what I do. I know I say that a lot, but I am incredibly thankful. Again, it goes back to when I was sweeping the floors at race shops and living out of my car, driving racetrack to racetrack, and here I am living my dream and having fun. And I get to come back and race with Jimmy Hansen. He's over here in the corner. Someone that I raced with years ago. And it's cool to be able to keep relationships and connections like that with people that have helped you along the way. And it definitely means a lot. And, I definitely, one thing that's been important to me is to not forget where you came from. And, I try to stick to that as much as I possibly can. And that's definitely something I live by.
And now, how many miles have you been on the road so far this year in your car?
Oh,
The one thing I know about you is that you freaking drive a lot, probably more on the highway than you do on a race car.
Yeah. So this year, this year hasn't been a whole lot yet, thankfully. But I think my biggest year was about 150,000 miles. And I think it was 2018. I think when I started with MonsterJam, obviously I got to fly everywhere, so that I got a little spoiled there. But I think it was about 150,000 miles was my biggest year. But thankfully, this year, with obviously everything going on in the world, hasn't been a whole lot. So thankfully, again, haven't put a whole lot of miles on just yet, but definitely missing traveling as much as I have. So I will say that.
Yeah. If you have one thing you can tell people to get through a long night drive, an overnight drive, what would be your one tip?
Oh boy, man. Get a really good playlist. Get a good playlist of podcasts, music, whatever it is. And sometimes I'll even listen to a movie that I know, Talladega Nights or something along those lines. I'll listen to it and, I can picture it in my head. Helps pass some time. At least you kind of have an idea of how much time has passed at that point. But I'd say definitely just get in the zone, get yourself a good little playlist, maybe watch a movie or not watch, I'm sorry, but listen to the movie. Sorry. I'm try anything you can. I mean, it's a tough one, really is. I'm not going to lie, but once you do it a lot, you just get used to it.
Yeah. Just don't close your eyes and you're good.
Exactly. I will say my favorite thing is driving at night. I'll start driving at like 9-10 o'clock at night and I'll drive through the night. I won't go to bed. I'll stay up. It's the clear, you have no cars on the road, set your cruise control and go. You'll make up so much time.
That's true. Yeah.
Very true. You know what? Before we shift it back over to Jerry and I'm going to have to ask Jerry how much he's driven in a year. Boy, that's a lot of miles to put on a car. I think I put that on my car in maybe the course of 3-4 years, the time when I was in school, let alone 1 year. Jerry, how many miles have you put on your car in a single year covering NASCAR?
I believe the year that I did the playoff pursuit, we did 67,000 miles. Covered all last 10 of the regular season races, but I covered 34 races overall. But I was on the road for 72 straight days, pulling a camper behind the pickup and camping with the fans in the infield for 10 solid weeks of the playoffs. So I've got a lot of miles under my belt, and I average about 50 to 52,000 miles a year anyway.
Oh my gosh. Well, I think he has Camden beat there a little bit, huh, Zach?
A little bit.
Well,
it's a lot of miles either way. Yeah.
It is a lot of miles, but I've had a lot of fun doing it. I'm getting old quickly, and I'm exhausted, y'all. It's driving back from Daytona earlier this week and then going straight into the office. It's been brutal. So I don't know how much more I can. I'm going to have to get my frequent flyers miles back up so that I can start flying again.
What was the shooting locations like at the Daytona Road Course?
It was okay. We had I was actually in the back bus stop. I was at the International Horseshoe. I had the same routine every day. I shot the first segment roughly in the back bus stop on the back stretch. Went over to the International Horseshoe. Shot a couple of probably 4, 5, 6 laps there. Drove back around, went up in the grandstands, and shot the rest of the race in the grandstands. So it was pretty good shooting. If you go to the website, kickinthethires.net, obviously you can see all of my photo galleries. I put up a bunch of photos this week from all of the events. So check it out.
Yeah, and it was a crazy week. It was overall a triple header weekend down at the road course. Big race in Xfinity, and with Ty Gibbs winning, I mean that definitely shocked me quite a bit. I felt like I kind of treated him unfairly by not thinking he was going to do well at all. I mean, he skipped the Camp World Truck Series completely. He went from ARCA, he went ARCA East last year, ARCA, and now going right to Xfinity with his debut with Joe Gibbs Racing. I mean, he had some great equipment, but that Xfinity series, I mean, it is stacked with just unbelievable road course talent, and didn't know how the weather was going to play in. It was such a new track. It's only been run once before. He ran the ARCA race there last year, so he has a little experience. But for him to go out there and win, overall, just super impressed with that. I mean, the competition changed quite a bit throughout the race. I mean, we saw just an absolute shocker at the end of stage one with Austin Cindric and AJ Allmendinger colliding, coming to the checkered flag, the green and white checkered. And I really didn't expect that at all. I mean, it comes down to just that racer mentality and just wanting to get that stage win, that extra playoff point. I mean, Allmendinger's running for the championship this year for the first time, and Cindric, this is his last chance at an Xfinity title. But yeah, it was weird seeing that type of contact. I mean, you knew they had the cars to beat, and it ended up ending the day for Allmendinger. I mean, he finished, but he was well off the pace. I think he ran like the 9th best lap time, even with all that damage. But I mean, he had the winning car, and he was out of it. Cindric was still there at the end. He rallied back. It was a lot of fun seeing him pull off all those passes and still contend for the win. But with that right front damage, it just killed him under braking, I felt, and he just didn't have quite enough before the incident. Then Noah Gragson, he was my pick to win before the weekend with just incredible consistency last year on road courses, and he had like a 3-lap deficit at the beginning with some sort of mechanical issue, and he ended up coming back to the lead lap, but he got caught up in a wreck with like 2 or 3 laps to go. So overall, you look at what Ty Gibbs accomplished. Yes, there were some guys who were caught out of the race, but he still had to beat just loads of veteran talent. Daniel Hemrick with Joe Gibbs Racing, Harrison Burton. I mean, these are teammates, and he was out there and he won the race fair and square. So a lot of respect to that, and he's got, I believe, 14 races added to his schedule. So we're going to see a lot more of Ty Gibbs in 2021.
He was an 80-1 long shot to win that race, by the way. So, really? Yeah, I mean, that's some strong odds there. That definitely puts you in the long shot category. Just to give you an idea, for Christopher Bell to win the race on Sunday, he was a 66-1 long shot. So, that's those are big numbers. But for Ty Gibbs to go out there and dominate like he did, I mean, he was running away in the final closing laps. He was pulling away on the straightaways. When you get on the oval part of the track, he was gone. I think he was playing a little bit careful in the chicanes and the bus stop, but everywhere else, it was craziness on the track. I think we see like 3 cautions in a row right there at the end, green white checker, and it was nuts. So it was a great Xfinity race and a great Cup race. Justin, talk to us about what did you see? Because I saw it through the camera lens. What did you guys see covering it?
Yeah, it was pretty crazy. We have obviously another first-time winner in the Cup Series with Christopher Bell grabbing the checkered flag. And I think this is one race that no one really thought that Christopher Bell would have gotten his first career race win in the Cup Series. But having to outduel Joey Logano and then beat out Denny Hamlin, Kurt Busch, Brad Keselowski, the rest of the top 5, that's not an easy feat. So big kudos to Bell to get his first win and really muscle his way up to that top spot. And then a lot of other good finishers as well too. AJ Allmendinger getting a 7th place finish, and then Michael McDowell, fresh off of his Daytona 500 win last week, finishing in 8th. And then Ryan Preece, who quietly got a good finish in the 500, gets another great finish here to put himself in 9th, I believe. Let me check. That puts him pretty high up in the points too, 7th early on. So that's great for him and his team to get up there. Unfortunate for a few others, though. Ross Chastain and Tyler Reddick getting involved in 2 different crashes. Obviously, they unfortunately had a terrible start, and then Matt DiBenedetto having a crash and then some mechanical issues, keeping him from running as well as he could have. So that's 2 poor finishes there. But that's kind of one thing I want to talk about with you guys. If you remember back with Levine Family Racing, the history of their drivers, you have Michael McDowell, who's just won the Daytona 500. You have Christopher Bell, who drove for them and just won the Daytona Road Course. And I mentioned Matt DiBenedetto. You could also toss in maybe William Byron into this list as drivers that people are looking to win this year to kind of secure their seats or maybe secure their names in the series for a long-term time period, if to probably put it that way. But what do you guys think? Does this add more pressure to people like Matt DiBenedetto or a William Byron to pull off a win this year compared to previous years?
I don't think so for Matt necessarily. For other drivers, maybe so. But Matt already knows he doesn't have a ride for next year, and he's very open about the fact that he doesn't have a ride for next year. There's no talks yet. He hasn't, he's still under contract, even though everybody knows that he's a free agent. So something will come up later in the year. He's not going to be gone from the Cup Series or from NASCAR, but at the end of the day, it would help him if he got a win, but you can't be responsible if someone gets into you and cuts a tire down and it rips your rear quarter panel off. And that's pretty much what happened from what I could tell. If you go to the photo gallery for the Cup race, you can see the entire backside of his car is ripped apart. And then after all that, after racing to the end, the car just gave up. They pushed it to the garage. That's not a Matt DiBenedetto fault, and that's something that an owner, a crew chief who's helping an owner make a decision, they're going to look at that and see Matt's body of work, not just a race at Daytona. Obviously, if he goes on a slump this year and doesn't get any top 10s, no top 5s, that's gonna play into where he might end up. But I don't think this is obviously I don't think the death knell for his career is the road course race at Daytona. We got 6 more of these things to go, I believe. Got Coda coming up next, and so he'll be fine. I still predict Matt DiBenedetto to win a race this year at some point. I don't know where that would be, but I think you're going to see a lot of different people win this year. Even though Denny Hamlin said earlier this week he thinks the regular guys will come around. I'm sure they will, but I don't know if we're going to have 4 and 5 wins per regular guy. I think we may have a pretty good field of one-off winners.
Yeah, there's going to be those occasional guys Harvick had 9 wins last year, and guys like Denny and maybe Kyle Busch, if he can turn it around like last year. Truex can get on runs and win 6-7 races. So you generally get that handful who win about half the season. But we're off to a start where we're all getting those surprise winners. McDowell for sure was a surprise for me. I know he's a great plate racer, super speedway racer, but just how the end was looking, I didn't see him winning. And Chris Bell, I knew he was tremendously talented, but it was just, I didn't expect it to come on a road course. And I'm one who tries not to do this, but I do it instinctively. And I compare a driver who ran the car last year, Eric Jones, and compare it to how Bell's going to run this year. Jones, he was with the team for 3 years and he had 1 non-plate win that came at Darlington a couple years ago. So for Bell, I think his first non-plate race to come out of the gate and win, and to do it not really on strategy, not guys wrecking in front of you, rain crazy it wasn't anything really crazy. Joey had a 3.5 second lead with 2 or 3 laps to go, and he caught him down and he passed him clean in that last chicane, and he won it fair and square. And for someone who was really stressing a couple of years ago was Christopher Bell, because he knew he was getting a little bit older. I think he's 26 or so he was probably 24 at the time, thinking he's getting older. But he had a good point, because a lot of these guys get into their late teens, early 20s, and they're already eyeing down, full-time Cup rides. And it just took him a little bit longer. And I knew that extra time was going to pay off well. And, for him to be a Cup winner already, that really seals the deal for him to be in a better place mentally, to go throughout this whole year knowing you're in the playoffs, you've won that, you've gotten that first win out of the way. For someone like DiBenedetto, it's just a totally different route that he's taken his whole career. He's scratched and clawed for everything, but he's had that first win so close for years now. And you talked about Levine Family Racing. He almost got that win at Bristol back in 2019. Mm-hmm. And I think he does have something to prove to Benedetto. in a way, he probably feels less stressed because he knows he's not racing for his ride. He knows he's going to be out of the car next year, so he's out to impress people for sure. And I think if he has another season like he did last year, it's probably not going to do him any favors. I expected a little bit more last year, and I think this year he will step it up a bit. But if he doesn't, it's tough because that's a good car. I mean, it's not a winning car like weekly, but it can definitely be in the top 10 and do a little bit better if the driver has that experience. So putting him on the list with guys like Ross Chastain and Chase Briscoe, Tyler Reddick, maybe a Bubba Wallace or Daniel Suarez maybe on a super speedway. I mean, there's a lot of guys who can get that first win.
Yeah, I want to go back real quick to you said passing the chicane. Go look at the photos in the gallery because I've got that pass. It was definitely clean, but there's also a series of photos in there on the final restart that not a lot of people paid attention to, and that is, Kyle Busch getting into it with Chris Buescher and Austin Dillon and forcing Dillon down into the grass and about ripping out the front bumper. And it doesn't pay off for Kyle Busch. He ends up spinning and almost hitting the wall and cost him lots of points. So I noticed a lot of different things, not being in the press box and being able to shoot photos of what was going on the track, because you have to be keen on actually what's happening in front of you rather than just tweeting. I don't think I put 20 tweets out the whole weekend. So, that doesn't help. That doesn't help my followers any, but it definitely helps our hits on the website to get those photos up. I want to make a couple of different analysis here on things. You may not have noticed this either. I did a little story on Kurt Busch this past week, and he came out with a video with Monster Energy, and the beginning of the video has Michael Waltrip on TV announcing breaking news from sources that Kurt Busch is going to retire. Now, Kurt played it off in the video. If you haven't seen it, you can go to the website and watch it. But I asked Kurt about this, and he's like, take it for what you will. It looks to me, Kurt flying off in the sunset, he's done. He says, I've done everything there is to do in NASCAR. No, he hasn't. And I'm not going to say what, but no, he hasn't. So I made a prediction, and then he won't talk to me about it. But I did ask him about his celebrity status because of that video. And he alluded to the fact that he wants to do more of that. He wants to engage. He thinks sponsors need to engage fans in any way, shape, or form to reach out. He wants to see sponsors back in the fan zones and doing engagements with the NASCAR fans there and reaching out to new people. And we've seen some of that with the football players that have come on, and Ryan Vargas picked up one, and Joe Graff Jr. Football player signed on with Joe Graff Jr. To do some sponsorships. This is really, really big for our sport. So when you see that, and Kurt goes out to LA this week, by the way, and is on the Kelly Clarkson show. He's trying to become an actor like you, Zach. So he's looking for a post-race job. Maybe he'll be on TV more often. But I think as a sport, he's got the right idea and what he's talking about when we interviewed him earlier this week about what NASCAR needs to do to reach more fans. And right now we're seeing a huge influx with Pitbull, Michael Jordan, all the football players and actors and everybody else who's getting involved. This is really, really big and a big time for NASCAR.
Yeah, and it's a good time too. After what Steve Phelps called the hardest year NASCAR's ever had to endure last year, for them to bounce back, first thing out in 2021 to, as you said, have these names and have this kind of positive energy. We usually get that every year, but I knew this year was going to be super crucial to have that positive type of energy, and so far we're getting a lot of that.
Well, since you're big time now, can you reach out to Pitbull and see if he'll come on the show?
I don't know, man. He felt like it sounded like he had a good time at Daytona, given that anthem, given that command.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we can get him to do like a pre-race concert or something.
Heck yeah, do for sure. I've got a question for him the next time he comes up to discuss with the media things that how he's liking being an owner over at Trackhouse. I've got a couple of questions because I actually bought his album. I've never bought a Pitbull album before, and I've listened to it. I actually like some of the music on there. It's pretty cool. But speaking of Pitbull, Mr. 305, he's from Miami, and guess where we're racing this weekend? Down in Miami.
Not Daytona.
No, not Daytona. We're going to be in Florida, but we're going to be way south down in the Homestead-Miami Speedway. The schedule got shaken up a little bit because of COVID. Any predictions for you guys? I know who my prediction to win is this weekend, but I'm gonna defer to y'all. But by the way, that video for Monster was filmed down in the Keys. So Kurt has been a frequent flyer of Southern Florida for the past few months, from what I can tell.
Yeah, predictions. I probably wouldn't pick Kurt, even though he had a hell of a week at the Daytona Road Course. He was one of the guys who flew clear off the track and somehow came back to get, I think, a top 5. Him and Keselowski, freaking crazy. But Homestead, we're going to see a lot different type of race here. And starting with Xfinity, pretty much the same guy I picked last week. I got to go with Noah Gragson again. Homestead was probably his best race, or 2 races last year. I think he led about 160 laps combined in both races, and they both came down to late cautions and late restarts, and they both chewed him up, and he lost both races on the last lap or last 2 laps, and super brutal for him. But I think after these 2 disappointing races to start the year, I think he's going to come back strong and finally win Homestead. And then on the Cup Series, I have a feeling I'm going to take your pick, Jerry. But I'm going to pick Kyle Larson.
Hey!
Yeah, I felt it. Yeah, he said he was going to win. He said he's going to win 5 races this year, so this would be his first. And he's been solid to start the year. Hell, he may have won the Daytona Road Course if he didn't have that wreck.
Yeah.
I think in turn 7 or so, he was getting second place, and he just went straight off, just going for it, But Homestead's always been among his best tracks ever. I can't believe he hasn't won there yet. He hasn't raced there in a while since he didn't get to run there last year. But I think that if there's one track that's going to fit him like a glove, it's going to be here. And he's got that Hendrick power. I think he's one of the more comfortable locks that you can have for this weekend.
Yeah, Chase Elliott was runner-up last year, so definitely.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to start with trucks, and I don't know if Kyle Busch is entering that one. I know he entered that race last year, but I'm going to go with...
Is there a truck race this weekend?
I don't think there is.
Oh, there isn't?
No, they're off. They're off.
Well, that
they race Phoenix next.
Yeah, they're off this week.
I'm predicting no winners in trucks.
That's a good reason. There's a reason for that.
I will put money on that one. I'm going to say Harrison Burton's for Xfinity. He's going to go back-to-back. He won last year, or at least one of the 2 races. Chase Briscoe won the other one at Homestead. So Harrison Burton's going to go back-to-back at Homestead this weekend. And, for Cup, I was leaning towards Denny Hamlin again, just to say he's gonna do it again this year. But you know what? I'm gonna stay on the train of first-time winners, and I'm gonna say Tyler Reddick because if you guys remember, he finished 4th last year. So I'm gonna say he's gonna learn off of that 4th place finish and learn what it takes to get 3 more spots up there, and we're gonna keep this train rolling of first-time winners.
Yeah,
and don't forget that the race ended a lap early, like he thought it did last year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, if we keep this trend of first time winners up, we're gonna have to go back to like 1948 in order to because we're already at 1950 when pretty much the field had only raced 2 seasons, but so because we haven't had 2 first time winners back to back like that since the sport pretty much began. As far as do what?
We need Seth on that stat.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Right.
It's true. It's 1950 is when the last time they were first in Cup Series. There were the first 2-time Cup Series winners. Mainly that was back when the sport was in its infancy. I want to, you know, you got me all, messed up when you taking Kyle Larson. So I'm going to go to the Xfinity, and I'm going to say Justin Allgaier for the Xfinity win. But in the Cup Series, I'm going to go with the guy who has been slighted in 2 races in a row, and that is Joey Logano. I know I should pick him for Vegas in a couple of weeks, but I am going to pick Joey Logano to win at Homestead because I think he's got a chip on his shoulder, and he is going to he's going to be a force to be reckoned with once he gets down there and gets on the track. So that's my pick for Homestead-Miami Speedway.
I think for Vegas, we're all just going to pick all the Penske drivers, aren't we? So, like,
pretty much
Blaney, Keselowski, and Logano. Yeah. That's just it.
Yeah.
And then if anybody joins us, we'll have
anybody that has a Pennzoil logo on their car, that's what I'm picking. It's a Pennzoil 400. It seems like they've won it for the past, ever since Pennzoil came in as a sponsor. Yeah. I think Joey's won the last 2 in a row. So, and you'll be there since I couldn't talk you out of it. You're going to go to Vegas, and I'm going to take 2 red-off lights and go to Phoenix maybe. So we'll see. I'm getting that dig in on the show just so you'll know that I did everything I could, to convince you not to go to Vegas, and darn it,
that's the only race we're able to go since they took California away, and
I was giving you Phoenix. I was even you could have had it was wide open. That's okay. I'll go. It's okay.
I have a feeling Sonoma's kind of around the corner. I hope not, but we'll see.
We'll see. Up in the air. We'll see. I won't be here for Sonoma if most likely. So I'm hoping to be out of the country. But anyway, let's wrap this show up. It's been a fun week. We've had great interviews with drivers on the Zoom calls. We've got some more happening tomorrow. Everybody getting ready for this weekend's race at Homestead-Miami Speedway. I'm kind of pumped about it because, this is kind of where they let fans come back last year, for lack of a better term. They had a bunch of military people in the stands last year. So I think the people in South Florida will they're getting 3 weeks of racing in a row. And that's a big deal. So hopefully the fans that couldn't make it to Daytona can go down and be there at Homestead-Miami Speedway. And we really appreciate all the NASCAR fans out there. So anybody else got anything they would like to add before I close this thing out?
No, I've got videos to edit now.
Well, that's going to do it here for us on the Kickin' Show. Thanks for tuning in every week. As you heard, Justin will be editing and doing post-production because that's what we hire him to do, because he's really good at it. So we appreciate it. Tune in next week right here. And don't forget to follow us on Twitter and on all of our social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook. One more shout out, Rose Villas Southern Bar and Table in Ormond Beach, still a sponsor of this show. So if you're in Ormond Beach and you're watching the show, if you're down in Daytona, you work at NASCAR, you're watching the show, go by there, tell them you heard it on Kickin' the Tires, that we were talking about them. They'll give you a free appetizer or a free dessert. So tell them Jerry sent you from Kickin' the Tires, and they'll take care of you. Talk to Pat. We appreciate their involvement in the sport. Thank you very much. You guys have a great evening.